Hi, my name is Brandon and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today I want to talk some about how to talk to a therapist, a counselor, psychologist, or your sponsor in a 12-step program or a mentor in any other recovery program. Basically anybody who's serving as some kind of spiritual, emotional guide for you in life. And it's really important for us to think about the way we're going to approach these relationships, because I have failed at these kinds of relationships many times in my life. I've been going to therapy since I was 10 years old, and I have a lot of experience in doing it the wrong way. And it's only when I started doing things what I consider the right way that I started seeing some very significant benefits in the therapeutic relationship and growth in myself. So I want to get started by reading some from from Going to Pieces Without Falling Apart by Mark Epstein. The first paragraph that I want to read is about the day-to-day personality and how we sometimes have trouble letting go, and some of the growth that we can see when we start to do that. He says, I became aware while sitting with him of how contracted I was in my day-to-day personality, of how eager I was to please, and how insecure I felt about my ability to do that successfully. I could see how contracting made me feel empty, not quite real, and not whole, because in fact I was only being a fraction of myself. Only by letting go on the one side and opening on the other could I become more real, by becoming less known to myself. Only by relaxing my mind, moving away from my usual thinking and into awareness, could I find the realm behind the id. The reason that I highlighted this paragraph is it reminds me a lot of what I went through and what a lot of people describe going through in the process of recovery. The idea that our day-to-day personality is built around being eager to please other people, being insecure about our abilities to do that, and that when we finally let go and open up to others and really start to practice honesty in the way that we interact with the world around us, that's when we start feeling more real. But also, and I've heard many people in recovery say this, you become less known to yourself. It's very common for people in early recovery, especially, to say, I'm getting to know who I am. And I have certainly felt that way many times. But to get to that point, I had to let go. I had to stop trying to please everybody and start really figuring out, well, what is important to me in life, and how do I express that honestly through what I'm doing. And I think that connects really well to how we approach a relationship with someone like a sponsor or a therapist or a psychologist. This sense of genuine honesty really becomes important, and that's when we start to get a lot out of that relationship. I have spent a lot of time in my life trying to please even people like counselors and psychologists, and it was only when I got into recovery and started learning how to be honest with both myself and these people that I started really seeing some benefits from the relationships with them and some growth coming out of the work that we were doing together. And what he says about this is, as my encounter with Ram Dass made clear to me, meditation did not have to be the only venue for Kate's kind of breakthrough. It could also come in the context of a therapeutic relationship in which the need of the ego to maintain control is successfully relinquished. There is nothing about psychotherapy per se that could not foster this kind of realization, except that for many in our culture, both therapists and patients, it is an entirely alien concept. Just as we are taught that doing is preferable to being, so are we reared to think of separateness as the key to our growth and of connection as something that is rooted in childhood. So, in this sense, one of the things that I've really had to practice, and a sponsor was a great way to start practicing this, was complete and utter honesty with myself and someone else about what I was feeling, and not trying to express my feelings in a way that I felt would please that person or gain their approval. And that was the big thing for me, is that I was afraid to express the things going on in my head, the emotions that I was experiencing, to another person, because I thought that other people would disapprove of them. When I entered into a relationship with a sponsor, where it was made clear that it was my job to express all of what I was feeling, all of what I was thinking, whether it was good, bad, ugly. When I entered into that kind of relationship and then had a successful relationship built on that brutal honesty, I was able to take that same kind of attitude into a relationship with my counselor. And at that point, I started seeing some really good benefits, because one, I found out that these people that I was sure would judge me if they really knew what was happening inside did not do that. In fact, I found that they had gone through similar experiences, or if they hadn't, had known many, many others who had, and had some good advice to share with me about them, and could at least offer me the comforting knowledge that I'm not the only one who goes through that. And there have been many situations where I've had emotions and thoughts that I thought were completely irrational, that I've had someone like a sponsor or a counselor point out to me and say, no, it's understandable why you feel this way. And then they're able to give me advice on how I might reconcile that with what's actually happening in life, or if I need to change some behavior as a result of the way I'm feeling, they might give me advice on that. And what is started as a relationship in my addiction, especially, where I would try to please my counselors, my therapists, I would try to give them the answers I thought they wanted to hear. That's not what therapy is for. And you're not there to make friends. You're not there to gain approval. You're there to get better and to help learn how to handle whatever issues brought you there in the first place. The only way to do that, I've learned, is to form a relationship where you can be brutally honest about what you're feeling, what you're going through, what your emotions are, and then talking through what happens after that, what you need to do to address those things. A sponsor was a wonderful way to start that process for me, and especially as someone who has a substance use disorder, talking to someone who also has the same became extremely important to me. And I'm very fortunate that I also have a counselor who is in recovery from substance use disorder. So I'm able to talk to that person and get an even different side of things. And in both those relationships, though, I have to be very careful, and I have to watch myself, because there are times where I can see myself trying to say something to please those people, trying to say something that I think they want to hear, rather than telling them the truth. And it's only in telling them the truth that I can get better. So if I had to give anyone any advice about how to have a relationship with a counselor or a therapist, psychologist, your priest, anybody who you are looking to serve as a guide in terms of spirituality, in terms of just your emotional and mental health, I would say brutal honesty is one of the most important things. And if you can hold on to that and let go of your need to please people and gain their approval, then I think you will find yourself with many more opportunities to get the kind of therapeutic release and treatment that you need in those situations. That's it for today. I'll be back here tomorrow with more. Have a good one.